Hi everyone, Salesforce Development Day 37. Now today's agenda is we'll quickly go through the previous session and then we'll talk about the sharing record using the Apex sharing, and then we'll talk about the AccountShare Object, and then we'll talk about the use case, and we'll talk about the Apex class sharing as well, and then we'll have a trial headlines. Now last class we were seeing about what did we discuss in the last class? What did we discuss in the last class?
Best practices of triggers, trigger order executions.
Trigger best practices, order of execution, and then we have seen how to switch on, switch off the trigger using the custom setting. That's what we have seen yesterday. And today we'll talk about the sharing record mechanism. So we all know that this is the screen that we have seen already. This flow we have already seen during the admin. Whenever we have a account object OWD level private, whenever we have a OWD is a private, then there are sharing features are available. There are different sharing features. One is a manual sharing, automated sharing, and Apex sharing. So we have seen the manual sharing. Manual sharing is nothing but going to the record level, clicking on the sharing button. Either I can share to the single user or a multiple user. Automated sharing rule is nothing but there is some rule criteria. Based on certain conditions, I can share the record to the single user or a multiple user. And access level is I can give the read only or read write. And the next one is a Apex sharing. Apex sharing, today we are going to see how to share a record through the Apex using the code. Now, what is the reason why we have a Apex sharing? What is the reason why we have a Apex sharing? Let's take a scenario. So Apex sharing is nothing but through the trigger, we will be writing a logic, and that logic we will be sharing it. So through the trigger, how can we share the record? We will see today. Now that means OWD level account is a private. If it is a private, then only the owner and manager can see the record. If it is a private record, whoever is the record is created, that person, as well as whoever is the manager, they can see the record. Now, in case if they want to share a record with the different users, we have a three type of a different sharing criteria are there. One is manual sharing, automated sharing, and Apex sharing. So these three, which we have already seen in the previous screen, manual sharing is nothing but sharing through the button. Automated sharing is through the rule criteria. We have a sharing rule. And the Apex sharing is through the Apex trigger. We can share the trigger. Now let's assume the scenario is account object. This object is private. Assume that OWD level, it is a private. Now we have a certain conditions. On the account level, we have a field called industry. We have a field called industry. Now whenever the field is industry equal to banking, then I wanted to assign it to the different group. Now, if it is a industry equal to finance, I want to assign it to the Bangalore sales group. If industry equal to insurance, then I wanted to assign that particular record to the Mumbai sales group. Industry equal to manufacturing, then I wanted to assign this particular record to the Chennai sales group. If it is a technology, then I wanted to assign to the Pune sales group. That means we have a different groups. Now we have a different groups. Now let's go back to the Salesforce. Let's go to the setup. In the setup, if we go to the sharing rule, let's search the sharing rule here, which is a sharing setting. Now for sharing settings, during the admin class, we have written some logic here. Now account sharing rule, this is what we have implemented. Now for the scenario, whatever I'm saying here, industry equal to banking, then it should be Hyderabad sales group, industry equal to finance, then it should be a Bangalore sales group. If I have to implement that scenario through the sharing setting, that means I need to create each condition. Now here I need to give a based on condition. Condition is industry equal to, we have a field called industry equal to. Every time I need to select a new value. Now here, whenever it is a banking, then I have to assign this to the particular group of members. I need to assign this to the particular group of members. And what are the read? This we have to do it. That means if I have to implement through the configuration, if I have to implement this logic through the configuration, for this one, separate sharing rule. And for this one, separate sharing rule, this one separate sharing rule, this one separate sharing rule, and this one separate sharing rule. Tomorrow, if there is a more number of conditions are there, right? Now, instead of writing a multiple sharing rules here, right? I need to implement around 5 sharing rules right now. Just only because of that, I have a industry equal to banking, then I should be assigning to the Hyderabad sales group. If industry equal to finance, then I should be assigning to the Bangalore group. Now I cannot say here or condition. If this is equal to Bangalore, then public group should be the, then if it is a banking, it should be the Hyderabad sales group. Now I cannot add a multiple sales groups here. In the sharing setting, I can assign only single public group, right? What are the conditions are there? All the conditions I can place it. Every sharing rule has only one public group I can assign it. That means in order to achieve that particular scenario, I need to implement almost 5 sharing rules. I need to implement it. Only the difference is industry equal to banking, and there are different type of profiles are there, right? So assume that what I'll do is instead of creating a sharing rule, I'll combine all of this. And I'll call this through the trigger. That means on the account level, whatever the updates are happening, whatever the insert or update, any DML operation is happening through the account object, I'll call the trigger. In the trigger, we will mention this kind of a logic. In the logic, dynamically I'll assign. That means whenever the user is creating an account record or updating a record, based on the industry value in the insert or a update, based on that value, I can assign it to the different group of people. Similar to the what we have in a sharing group. Now, whenever the condition is met, then we can assign it to the public group. Now, the next one, we have a level of access. Now, the level of access also I can define it here. Now I'm assigning to the Hyderabad sales group, Bangalore sales group, Mumbai sales group, Chennai sales group, Pune sales group. But the access level, I'll check the annual revenue. On the account object, we have a field called annual revenue. Whenever the annual revenue field is less than 50 lakhs, then I'll say it is a read only. Now, if it is a greater than or equal to 50 lakhs, then I'll say read and write. This kind of a criteria I cannot assign here, right? If it is a 50 I can have a only either read only I should be selecting it or read write I should be selecting it. I cannot say that, okay, this is the condition, but here check the 50 lakhs or not. If it is a 50 lakhs less than 50 lakhs, give a read access. If it is a greater than 50 lakhs, greater than or equal to 50 lakhs, create a read write. That means if I have to do this kind of a scenario, total 10 sharing rules I need to create it. Total 10 sharing rules, because one is a industry equal to banking, and then annual revenue less than 50,000. If it is less than 50,000, read only. This is one sharing rule. And same sharing rule needs to be there, but only the difference is greater than or equal to. I need to specify greater than or equal to what are the 50 lakhs is there, that is read write. That means every here there are total 5 are there, 5 plus 5 this condition. So total 10 sharing rule. So instead of creating a 10 sharing rule, what I'll do is I'll combine all this logic, I'll put it into the trigger. And in this trigger, whenever the account user is updating or editing, or some data is updated through some Apex classes, whenever any updates or insert is happening on this account, I'll write a trigger, and this trigger is going to share the data, going to look for the whatever the logic is there. Whatever the logic is there, it is going to look for the logic based on this annual revenue and industry. We are going to assign that to a group of members. Now, let's assume that right now I'm creating a new account. Let's say that account name is customer account. And let's say this is a Tejo Kumar. This is the account name, and the rating is a 1. And we'll have an account number here, AC, some number, and type equal to, let's say, prospect, and ownership is a public, and industry equal to agriculture, and we need some annual revenue here. So I'll say annual revenue. Now these are the data that I have given. I'll click on a save. Now, who is created this record? This record is created by the DEC batch. This record is created by the DEC batch. Now, on this record, if you look at, there is a sharing option is available. When you look at the record, it says that one group of user is shared. It is shared with one group of user. Who is that group of user? The same person. The same person, whoever the person is created, that's the same person named DEC batch user. Type is a user. Account access is all, because he is the person created. So he should have access to the account. And case is private, contact is read write, opportunity is private. So this person has a full access. This person has full access. DEC batch is having a full access because he is the person, he created the account. Now let me go to the users. Let's go to the user list. Now we have it here, different type of users are there. Now let me log in as another user. So we have a Salesforce platform user. Salesforce platform user is there. So I'll log in as this Salesforce platform user. Now when I log in as this Salesforce platform user, will I be able to see this record? Tejo Kumar? Will I be able to see the record of the Tejo Kumar?
No.
Now click on all accounts. Now am I able to see here? I cannot see. The record, because the reason why we cannot see the record. Why can't we see the record?
Because it's private account.
Account level, OWD level, it is a private. OWD level, it is a private. Now, if I click on here, click on a sharing, and I'll say that I can share with a single user, multiple user. So I'll say user, I'm sharing it, and the person is Radha Srinivas, and click on a save. Record shared the data, Radha Srinivas was created. Now here again, if I log in as the same person, now I can see the record. Now I can see the record.
This is manual sharing, right?
This is
Swapna?
manual sharing. Now I can see the record of the, because I did a manual sharing. Now the question here is, let me see whether the person is able to see or not. Now the person is able to see the record. But the point here, whenever I click on a share, whenever I click on a share, this data might be storing somewhere, right? This data might be storing somewhere. Whatever, as soon as I click on a share button to the specific user, how system is remembering that I have already shared this record with Srinivas, and then it is shared here, and whenever this user is logged in, it should be accessible this record. So how user will record, how user will remember. So basically, as soon as I click on a button share, this data, whatever we are seeing the data, this data might be stored somewhere. This data might be stored somewhere. That's the reason whenever this person is logged in, whenever this person log in, that time system remembers that this particular record is already shared with this user. So if this user is logging into the Salesforce, and if this user is clicking on the account, then this particular record should be visible for this user. How system is remembering it? How system is remembering? That means there might be some data, there might be some table, there might be some table. That table is storing the data in the database.com. There might be some table. So there might be some table which has a name, type, account access, case access, contact access, opportunity. This is for the one table. Like this, there might be some table which is storing all the data within the database.com. Within the database.com. Now, what is that table here? What is that table? Now, let's understand. So whenever, even if I click on a manual sharing, or even if I choose the sharing rules, or even if I do the Apex sharing, whenever, as soon as we share it, this data will be stored somewhere. This data will be stored somewhere. If I log out and log in back also, this data still remains same. We will not lose the sharing for this person. We will not lose the sharing for this person. It will be remain same. Now, how this is happening, where the data is stored related to the sharing, where the data is stored. Now, in the sharing, whenever we click on a share button, all the sharing information will resides inside the sharing object, inside the share object. Now, for each object, Salesforce will provide a share object by default. That means for every object, you have a share object. Every object, you have a share object. That means as soon as you click on a share button on any object, that respective object share, the data will be stored related to the sharing record. Example, like for example, object name and sharing object name. If it is an account, it will be stored in the account share. All the sharing details will be stored in the account share. If it is a contact, it stores in the contact share. If it is a lead, it will store into the lead share. If it is a case object, it will store into the case share. Now, not only the standard object, custom object also have a share objects. Now, if it is a position, for the position also we have a position share. If it is a hiring manager, for hiring manager also we have a hiring manager share. Hiring manager share. So for every object, you see there is a object is called object name along with share word will be there. Now, how can I verify whether these objects are available or not? Let's go to the developer console. So whenever we go to the developer console, in the developer console, click on a file and then click on a open. Now here you see object. Now if I type here account, as soon as I type a account, it is giving me the account. Along with that, it is also giving me the account share, similar to the lead. Now if I search a lead share, and similar to the opportunity. No, opportunity, we have a opportunity share. Similar to the position. Position also has a share, but it is not displaying here. It is also has a share, but it is not displaying here. Now you can see all the share objects. What are the share objects are there? Account share, assert share, branch share, right? This is the custom object branch. So branch share, case share, campaign share. These all are the sharing object. Customer underscore C. Whatever the customer sharing is there, that customer. And location share, opportunity share, right? So every object has a share object. Every object has a share object. No, whatever the related to the account, it will be stored into the account share. Now let's see what are the fields are available for one object. Now similar fields will be there for the rest of the objects. So let's see what are the fields that are available in the account share. Now whenever we are sharing a record, for example, I'm sharing this record. I'll click on a share button here. The first thing is that I need to know which account do I need to share it. Which account? Whenever I click on a share, I should know that which account I'm sharing it. Which account am I sharing it? So similarly in the account share, we have a field called account ID. It contains the account record ID, which has been shared or created. It contains the account record ID. Now, once I got the account ID, once I received the account ID, I'll click on a share button. In the share button, the first thing I'm going to verify, am I sharing the user or a groups? There are different type of groups are there. Especially user is nothing but the records which starts with the 005. Groups records starts with a 00G. Now let me show you that. Let's go to the here public group. Now click on the public group. Whenever you open the public group, the record ID, it starts with 00G. See here, it starts with 00G. Whereas user name, starts with the 005. Now it is going to be decided whenever I click on a share button. I need to decide whether the user or a group. Similarly, in the Apex account share also, in the share object also, we have a second field which is called as a user or a group ID. User or group ID. Now, user or a group ID contains the user ID or a public group ID. It contains the user ID or a public group ID to whom the record has been shared. That means if it is a user ID starts with 005. If it is a public group ID starts with 00G. Now, let's assume that I have decided the user. So I'll select the user. Next thing is that I'll cross verify what is the level of access. What is the level of access? Read only or a read write, or there is something called full access also, that is only in the classic. In the lightning, read only or a read write. So first thing is account access level. In the account share also, the third field is called account access level. For this account access level is, it contains the level of access has granted to the user for the account. What is the level of access that is granted, whether it is a read only or a read write. If you are doing it from the classic, you will have a one more option is called full access. Now the fourth one is case access. Now the next one is case access or a opportunity access. Now we have a case access and the opportunity access, contact access, these all are available. Now, opportunity access level, it's the same thing. It will determine what level of access should be granted to the related opportunity records of the account, whether should we give the read only or a read write, or if it is a full access. Similarly, case access level also. Case access level also, it is going to determine whether I'm sharing it like this, determine what level of access that should be granted to the related case records, whether I should give the read only or a read write or a full access. The next one is a row access. Row access. Row access is nothing but, no, it is not available here. It is available in classic. Let me show you in the classic. So click on it, switch to the classic. Let's go to the same record. Now here, click on a sharing. When you click on a sharing, now this is going to give you the row access. Row cause is nothing but a reason. What is the reason that we have shared a record to the user? What is the reason that I have shared the record to the user? Is it a manual sharing or a owner sharing or a sharing rule sharing or a Apex sharing? Whatever is reasons are there. Whatever the reasons are there. So those reasons we need to specify it in the row cause. Row cause is, it contains the reason for the sharing of the record. Reason for sharing of the record, whether it is a manual sharing or a owner of the record or rule. That means due to the account sharing rule. These are the different fields which are available in the account share. Now let me show you in the account share. Let's go to the developer console. We have a account ID. We have a user or a group ID, account access level, opportunity access level, case access level, contact access level, row cause. Now query it. Now simply run execute it. You will see these are the records. But I'm only interested on specific record, which is called as a, this is the record. Now in that case, what you will do is where account ID equal to, I'll specify the account ID, click on execute. So once you click on execute, you will see that two records are there. One is a all access level. That means that this person is the owner. That means this person is the owner. Second one is a read access. We have given through the manual. We have given through the manual. Now let's see one of the scenario. Now,
Swapna, I have a doubt.
if you look at the other objects also, like if you go to the file open, and if you look at the account sharing or a case sharing, if you look at this also, you will see those are the fields which are available: case ID, user group ID, case access level, root cause. Yes.
Yeah. Swapna, we can share records to the role and subordinates as well, right?
Yes.
But in the Apex sharing, we can only grant access to user or group, right?
Yes, user and groups.
Okay. And this row cause, which you said, is it a pick list that, okay, we can have only owner, manual, this one, only three values are possible?
We'll see that. Okay. So
Okay.
whenever you are sharing it here, for example, I'm adding one more sharing. Now this is the public group. Assume that I'm sharing it, right? Is the row cause it is showing here? Row cause is not showing here.
Yeah.
Right? So it is only few option: owner, manual sharing, and the role. Those are the by default it is taken by the Salesforce. Okay, in Apex level also you can mention those type of row access. Now we'll see that. Now the next one, let's see the use case. Let's implement one of the scenario. Now the use case is, if you go to the account object, let's go to the account object. In the account object, whenever you are creating a new record, now you have a field called here share to. You have a field called here share to. Share to is where it is looking for the users. That means whenever the record is created and whatever the username is specified here, for that user, I'm going to share the record. That means as soon as the record is created, by selecting the some user here, along with that, we can also take the another criteria, annual revenue. Because this is this user I'm going to share, but what is the level of access is decided by the annual revenue. Now here, we need to automate the sharing process. What are we doing? We are automating the sharing process. How we are automating the sharing process? By looking at the field called share to. Now dynamically, whatever the user has selected here, share to, we need to share with the one person, and the level of access is decided by the annual revenue. If it is a more than 50 lakhs, then we'll have a read edit access. Otherwise, it is a just a read access. This is the one of the scenario that we are going to look at. Now, share to is a standard. Share to is a standard field. Now let's go ahead and see that what is the how it is there. Now share to, which I have created it, right? This is already available. It is available to 2023. Let's go to the company information. Company information. Let's click on this, open in another tab. This is the modified, created is 12/28. Okay, we have created this where the share to is there during the admin. We have created the share to. Now share to is where it is looking at the related list called as a user. Where it is related list is called user. Now the use case here it is, we are going to configure and automate sharing process. We are going to configure automate sharing process to share the record to the selected user. whatever is user is selected by the created, whoever the user is created, whatever the user they have selected, dynamically at runtime based on the lookup field, we need to assign we need to share the record, and we need to grant the access level also. The granting the access level is, if it is a 50 lakhs more than that, then they should have all the edit access. If it is a less than that, they should have a read-only access. Read-only access. Now here, how we are going to implement a logic. The logic here, which we need to update is the creating. How can we do? So basically, what do I need to do here? If I wanted to implement a logic here, if I want to implement a logic in the trigger, what is the final output? The final output is whether the record is added in this sharing here, it is added or not. If the record is added here, that means sharing is done. Sharing is done. Now, if you do the manually also, the record should be added into the account share. What are the related object? Share object is there. In that share object, the record should be added. Whether you do a manual, whether you do a sharing, whether you do a Apex trigger. So if I'm doing some logic, if I'm writing it, means I need to update this particular table. That means I need to insert a record here. If I insert a record, then automatically the record gets shared. Now in this scenario, now what are we going to do is we have an account share. Now let's say that I'm creating the instance for it, new account share. I'm creating an instance for it. So you can create an instance for account share. You can create an instance for account share. Now here we have within the account share. Now you have to pass the account ID. You need to pass the account ID. Account ID equal to, let's assume that it is some number. Now this is the account ID, you need to pass it. And then account share. Now you need to decide whether it is a user or a group. User or group. Group ID. Now you can share it through the either group or a user. 005, I'm selecting the user here. Now, next one we have an account share access level. Account access level, opportunity access level. Whatever the access levels are there. Account access level. Then we have an opportunity access level. Opportunity access level. Let's assume that account access level I'm giving as a edit access. I'm giving edit access, and opportunity I'm giving a read access. Read access. Like this you can specify it. Then finally one more is available, case access level. Case access level. Case is also read access. Case is also the read access. Now pass this all the access levels. Then finally what you have to do is insert whatever this object name is there, instance name. Now specify that. Now you are going to insert a record here. Insert a record. Now this is how you will be doing through the trigger. Whenever the account is created or updated, you will check the condition. Based on the condition, you will be creating a record in account share. As soon as the record is created in the account share, that means record is shared with a specific user. Now for this scenario, we need to create a trigger on account object. Object is, we need to create a trigger on account object, and the event name. What should be the event name? What should be the trigger event here?
After insert.
After insert. After insert, this is the logic.
And what about update? Can't we update?
You can update it.
Yeah.
You want to change
So
it, you can update it.
Yeah,
When
so
we
it
are
will be
able to
after
create
insert
it,
and
that means
after
we are
update.
able to update it also.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and create a record. Let me close all this. File, open resource. Sorry. File, new. I'm creating a trigger. Trigger is on account object. Trigger is on account object. Let's choose that. Now we are creating a trigger, which is a share account record. Share account report. Now click on submit. Now once it is submitted, our event is after insert. After insert. Now within this, I'm going to write a trigger context variable if trigger dot is after and trigger dot is insert. If this condition is true, then we have to implement a business logic. Now business logic, I'll write the business logic. Bye. So this business logic, I'm going to implement the business logic in new class, another Apex class, which is called account. Let's say account share account handler or a share account handler. Share account handler. Share account handler. So this is the class which I'm implementing it. Here I'm going to implement a method. I'm going to implement a method here. The method name is public static void. And let's say here the event is after insert. So my method name is, I'll put it as a after insert. Now for this, we need a parameter, because in order to do the business logic, I need to pass a record from trigger to handler. Now here I'll say list of account. List of a account. I'll say that here ACC list. ACC list is the data that I'm getting it from the trigger. Now here the business logic which I'm going to write here, first check the null condition. If the ACC list dot, if it is not empty, if it is not empty, if ACC list is not empty, then I'm going to loop through the account. I'm going to loop through the account. Now this is the list of the account. I'm looping through the account. Now once I'm done with the looping through the account, first thing I'm going to check, is there a share to, whatever the field is there, share to, is there a value? That means if it is not equal to null, that means user has choose the value there. User has choose a value there, which is called as a share to. In the share to, user has choose the value. Now within this, I'm going to specify, I need to declare a account share. That means I need to create a record here. Account share, let's say ACC share.
We have to check revenue as well, right, Swapna?
Yeah, revenue also we need to check. Now here I'm going to check the revenue. ACC dot annual revenue is not equal to null. Now if it is done, then finally I'm going to update. I'm going to set all the data here. So that means ACC share dot, we have a user or group ID. Now I'm going to share with a specific user. Who is the user here? The user is already chosen by the, while creating the report. User is already chosen here. So I'm going to pass that particular user details. Now ACC share dot. Now we have it. Let's give a row cause. Now row cause has a pick list values here. Now what are the different pick list values we have? We'll see that. So right now let's assume that row cause I'm giving it as a manual. row calls as manual. Now next one is a ACC share dot account access level. Let's give it as a, let's account access level, we will change it as per the annual revenue. But opportunity, whatever the opportunity access level is there, by default opportunity access level, we will give it as a read access. We will give it as a read access. Now, same with the case access level also, let's give the read access. Now, for the account access, first I'll check if ACC dot annual revenue. If ACC dot annual revenue is a greater than or equal to 50 lakhs. If it is a greater than 50 lakhs, then what I'll do is account share dot access level. The account access level equal to, if it is greater than or equal to, I'll say that just edit access. I'll just say edit access here. Now I'll remove the condition here, annual revenue not equal to null, because if it is a greater than or equal to 50,000, then I'm going to say here this particular account should have a edit access. Else, by default, it should be read access. Else, by default, it should be read access. By default, it should be read access. Now, whatever the records that I'm creating here, everything I'll be placing into the one collection. So for that, I'm going to create a list collection here, list of account share, and let's say that this is a ACC share list equal to new list of account share, Now I'll push all the records into the collection. Now here, if condition is done, once the if condition is done, that means once these all are done, then I'm going to add the.
So you need to set the account ID that's for the account share.
Right. So I have not set the account ID. I'll be setting that account ID. Now here account ID, how can I pass it? ACC. We have a ACC.ID. Now account share dot account ID equal to ACC.ID. ACC.ID, and then finally what I'll do is I'll add all the records. That means whatever the record that I'm creating here, add the record to the collection. Add the record to collection. Now, what is the collection here? This is the collection dot add, and each one of them I'm going to push into the list collection. Now this is done. We are done with the for loop. Now, once we are done with the for loop, check if whatever the list is there, is that list is not empty. Why it is not showing this? If list is not empty, then simply what I'll do is I'll insert it. Insert the records. Now this is the logic. That is done. Now I'm going to call this logic here. I'm going to call this logic dot, the method name is after insert. For this after insert, we need to pass the list of account list. That means which one do we pass it? Trigger.new or trigger.old?
Trigger.new.
Trigger.new we are going to pass it. trigger dot new, we are going to pass it. Now this is the logic. This is the logic which we have written. Any questions on the logic here?
Now, what was the first assignment?
What do you mean by first?
Under the account ID, under the account ID. ACC.share dot user or group ID equals to.
Okay, here we have a user. I'll get a user ID here.
And the first one, ACC share dot account ID means like for which account we are trying to share, that account ID will be assigning to this, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Ma'am, in the share to pick list field, only users or groups only should be shared, right?
Yeah, you can try assigning the role as well, because right now we have a here option. I will give that assignment. So whenever we go for a particular account, now we have a user, group, role subordinates. These all options are available. Now you can try giving the role and role subordinates. Role and role subordinates, you need to try it. Try assigning to the role. And try assigning to the role and subordinate. See what is happening. It should work.
Okay.
Now, whenever we are implementing a Apex class, any Apex class, comments are very mandatory in the real time. Comments are mandatory in the real time. Without the comments, we should not be deploying the changes to the production. So what is the comments that you need to add? Who is the author? Who is the author? Now let's say here Swapna is the author, and then you need to add a description. What is the description of this? Now you need to say that this class contains all the business logic, to be used in share account record trigger. Used in share account record trigger. Now, next you need to add who has been created date. What is the created date? Today is the created date. Assume that May 5th. May 5th, 2023. And then you need to give who has been referring to it. That means this class is called from where? This class is called from where? That means references. Who is referring to this? It is referring by this class. And after that, whoever is modifying the class, we need to maintain that modified by. We need to maintain the modified by. So that means it has to have a modified by, and similarly here modified date. And what is the reason that you have modified? What is the reason that you have modified? So you will be having this kind of a comments in the real time. Let's suppose Akash is the person who has modified. Now when he has modified, assume that it is created on, assume that this is created on May 4th. So this person has modified on May 5th, 2023. Now what is the reason? Due to the defect or due to the fix. To fix the defect, the defect number. What are the defect number you have? In the real time, you will have a defect number. So this is something you will have a defect number. To fix the defect, like this, we will be adding the comments for the Apex class, right? Even for trigger also, you need to add it. For the method also, you need to add it. For the method also, you need to add. For method, you do not need this modified by everything. You do not need it. Especially you just need a created by, and author is also not available. So you need to simply write what is the description. Description is this method. This method contains the logic, business logic related to the account share, and created date when it is created, and what is the return type. Is there any return type? What is the return type? If there is nothing is there, just mention none. Mention none. Now, similarly, you need to write the same comments in the trigger also. So in real time, it is must and should follow this. Must and should follow this. This trigger is implemented for account object. Account object. References, nothing is there. Now, this is how you need to implement the comments in the real time. Comments are very important in the real time. That is also one of the best practice. Now, let me go ahead and create one account. Now, let's go ahead and create an account here. Assume that account is customer account. Let's give here Rohit rating warm, and we have a type. Let's give the type prospect, industry equal to agriculture. Along with this data, you need to specify the share to. Along with this data, you need to specify the share to. Now, annual revenue I'm giving as a 60 lakhs. 60 lakhs I'm giving here. Share to is I wanted to share by default to this person. That means as soon as I click on a save button here, it should execute this particular trigger, whatever we have implemented. It should execute that particular trigger and share the record. Now, before that, let's check, is there any triggers on the account object? Now we have so many are there. Now this is the account trigger. Account trigger, is it active or deactive? It is inactive. So this is fine. And the next one is a prevent contact. Prevent contact is active. Now let me deactivate this. Click on save. And the next one is, this is what we have created. And another one is update contact details. For the update contact details, it is inactive. Perfect. So we have only one trigger, which is active on this account. That is just now whatever we have implemented. Now click on a save button here. Now the account is created. Now let's go ahead and check the sharing. Now, what is happened by default, it is shared with the Radha Krishna. Radha Srinivas, right? It is shared with Radha Srinivas. That how it is happened, it happened through the Apex sharing. Now, this is in the real time. This is one of the scenario. Similarly, we have a different scenarios. Like user will be specifying it. Now, right now here, I'm getting the account access is read write. The reason is I have given the annual revenue is 60 lakhs. If I give a less than 50 lakhs, for example, let me create a new one. Now let's create a customer here. Now customer is Shailaja. Shailaja is a customer. And along with that, I'll specify the annual revenue, which is a 40 lakhs. And share to, I'll specify here same person, which is Radha Srinivas. Click on it, save. Now, in this scenario, it is going to share a record with Radha Srinivas, but the access level is read only. Now, in the real time, this is also decided. We have checking here 2 conditions, but in the real time, they are going to check multiple conditions. So multiple conditions they are going to check. Now, if lead status is this one, and if leads different kind of a fields, we will cross verify based on that field whether we should be sharing the record or not. When we are sharing it, what level of access should we give it? Give it? So everything can be decided during the code, during the trigger. Whenever the trigger is executed, we can decide during the trigger execution, the logic can be implemented there. Now the homework is create a trigger on lead object. Create a trigger on lead object, or let's say that in the lead, what we have. Let's open the lead. Details. Okay. Now, let's say here. No, instead of create a trigger. Now I'll say here configure an automate sharing process to share the record to the no. Okay, so share a record to the selected person. Selected user dynamically. Instead of selected user, let's say that selected role or role subordinates. Role and subordinates. Selected role and subordinate dynamically at runtime based on the lookup field. Whatever the, don't take the lookup field. Let's say that based on text field. Now here you need to grant the access, grant the edit access to the role or a role and subordinate. If the lead record annual revenue. On the lead level also we have a annual revenue. Annual revenue. Whenever the annual revenue is more than is more than 50 lakhs, then they should have a edit access. Else, grant the read-only access. Grant the read-only access to the access on the lead record. This is one homework. So here prerequisite says prerequisite is you need to create a text field. You need to create a text field. In the text field, enter the role ID. Whatever the 18-digit ID is there, enter that role ID. Enter that role ID. Now, whatever the ID you have entered there, it has to be 18-digit ID. Whatever the ID you have entered here, whether it could be a user ID, whether it could be a public group ID, whether it is a role ID. Whatever the ID here you specify, for that particular record, for that particular user, for that particular group, for that particular role, the record has to be shared. The record has to be shared. This is the first homework. And the second one is homework 2. When user is updating the existing record. Existing account record. Right, so that means you need to already have a trigger. You need whatever we have implemented in the class, you need to implement that. This needs to be implemented by you. Okay, first implement this. First implement after insert. So prerequisite for that is a need to implement a after insert logic. Whatever we have written right now. After insert logic needs to be implemented. For account share. Now, once that is done, on the next time when the user is updating the existing account record, that means let's assume that they are modifying the annual revenue. They are modifying the annual revenue, or they are deleting, or they are updating the share to. They are updating the share to. So whenever they are updating the share to user, whenever they are updating the share to user. Now here two things are there. Whenever the annual revenue is updated, you just need to update the account share. You just need to update the account share. That means, let's assume that before it was a 60 lakhs. Now it is a 40 lakhs. Whenever it is updated to the low, then you need to update the account share. The level of access needs to be updated. The level of access should be updated. So before it was a read edit access. If it is now we are decreasing the annual revenue. Update account share level of access, whether it is increased or a decreased. Right now here annual revenue is updated. Updated is nothing but either they decrease the number or they increased it, or they have decreased it or increased it. Whenever it is happening this, whenever this is happening it, what you need to do is you need to update your sharing. You need to update your sharing. That means the level of access you need to update the account sharing. Now the next one is if the user is changing the share to. If the user is changing the share to value here, that means Updated the share to. Updated the share to means deleted the old one, added the new user. Deleted, removed the old user, removed old user, and added new user. Added new user. So what you need to do is you need to update your account share. Update account share. Whatever the previous record is there for the user. Previous use shared record should be deleted. Should be deleted. And new sharing should be implemented. New sharing need to create a new sharing rule. Need to create new sharing for the new user. Whatever the latest user is there, for that user you need to create it. Now, any questions on this homework? First one and second one. Second one is prerequisite is you need to implement a after insert logic. Whatever I have written in the class that needs to be implemented on top of it whenever we are updating the existing account based on the value changes, whether it is the annual revenue changes or whether it is a share to value changes. Based on that, you need to update the account share. Whatever the share record is there, that record has to be updated. Clear?
First assignment on the lead record, right? Leads.
Yeah, it is on the lead. First one is it is on the lead.
Is there any field like the share to in the lead on the lead?
Lead, we do not have a share to. That's the reason prerequisite is text field. You need to create a text field. In the text field, you need to pass the 18-digit ID. Create here. Field name is share record. Field name is share record. This is the field name. So create this field. So this field data type is text type, text field. This is a field name.
Swapna?
Yeah.
Yeah. So initially you said like if suppose the industry is this, then assigned to this group. Industry is this, then assigned to this. So this is like the standard sharing, right? We know like if industry is this, then share it to this group, right? So to implement such a this one sharing, the best practice will be to use custom setting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now let's move on. Now, so far, whatever we have discussed how to share a record. How to share a record so that other person can able to view the record. So that other person is able to view the record. But let's assume that there is a different scenario. Now, so far, whatever we have seen, it is like a sharing the record. Sharing the record so that other person is able to view or edit or read whatever is access level is that we are giving it. Now we have another concept of the sharing, which is called as a Apex class sharing. Apex class sharing. In the Apex class sharing, we have a two type of sharing for the Apex class. One is a with sharing, second one is a without sharing. Apex class has a with sharing and without sharing. Now, with sharing is simply if you want to remember between differences between these two is with sharing is always runs into the user mode. With sharing is always runs into the user mode or a user context. Without sharing is always runs into the system mode or a system context. Always runs into the system mode or a system context. The difference between the with sharing, without sharing in the Apex classes is with sharing is user mode, without sharing is system mode. Now, what is this with sharing, without sharing? Where do we write in the Apex class? Where do we write in the Apex class? Now, with sharing or without sharing are specified at the class level. Whenever you are writing a class, while implementing the class itself, you need to specify whether it is a with sharing or a without sharing. Whether it is a with sharing or without sharing. For example, so far how we have written the classes like a access modifier, class name. That means public class name. Public class name. That's how we have written. But in between the access modifier and class, you need to specify whether it is a with sharing or a without sharing. In between the access modifier and class, you need to specify with sharing and without sharing. Whatever is option is available, like public with sharing class, public without sharing class name. And inside that, we have a business logic. Inside this, we have a business logic. Example, public class name. This is in generic how we write it, right? Just now we have created a one class. So how we have written that? So here public class name, public class name, public class name, and within that we are writing the business logic. Now here, when I do not specify anything between these two, when I specify nothing, like I am not specifying here with sharing or without sharing, I am not specifying here. When I do not specify anything here in between these two, in between the access modifier and class, in between the access modifier and class, we are not specifying anything there. If I do not specify anything there, by default, system will take it as a without sharing. By default, system will take it as a without sharing. Now, if you specify with sharing, public with sharing class, account helper, public with sharing, account helper. That means the system, whenever we are running it, it will consider as a with sharing. That means whenever we have a with sharing, it is a user mode. The logic is running in the user mode. The logic is running in the user mode. If you do not specify, or if you specify a without sharing, that means it is running in the system mode. That it is running in the system mode. Now, what is the system mode? What is the user mode? System mode is nothing but whether the record is created by this user or a different user, doesn't care. Whether the record is created by this user or a different user, doesn't care. I'll run it as a system mode. Whatever the system level I have access, based on that I'll run it. That means let's assume that we have a different users. This is a system admin user, and we have another user here. We have another user. Now this is a different user we have. Whenever this user is created, whenever this user is creating or performing something, backend some logic gets executed. Backend some logic gets executed. Whenever the logic is executed, if Apex class says that with sharing, or it says that without sharing, whenever the Apex class says that without sharing, that means it doesn't care whether this user has access to the account or not. Whether this user have access to the certain object or not, it doesn't care. Without sharing is nothing but the logic gets executed in the system mode. The logic gets executed in the system mode. if in case the backend logic, the business logic says with sharing, the backend logic says with sharing, that means it will run in the user mode. That means only it will show you the data that the user has the access. Only it will show you the data where the user has the access. Where the user has the access to the records or a field or whatever it is. Only that data it is going to show you. Only that data it is going to show you that. Now, let's assume that, let's take a scenario. Now, scenario is I have an account object. I have an account object. On the account object, OWD level is a private. OWD is a private. And in the org, we have a two users, user 1, user 2. We have a two users, user 1 and user 2. User 1 is having a access to the account object, user 2, and he has created the 20 records. User 1 has the access to the account object and user 1 is created the 20 records. User 2 also has the access to the account object. User 2 is created the 7 records. User 2 is created the 7 records. When we look at the account level, total records, we have a 27 records. We have a 27 records. That means user 1 is created a 20 records. When we have a private, whatever this user is created, this user cannot see. Whatever the user 2 is created, this user cannot see. User 2 can only see the 7 records because those are the records created by that user. User 1 can see only 20 records. User 1 can see only 20 records. They cannot see the other 7 records because OWD is a private. But actually, when the system admin log into the Salesforce, they can see 27 records are there. 27 records are there. Let's assume that I have a visual force. Let's assume I have a visual force, which is a show account page. In this visual force page, I'm displaying the account data. Account data, the table I'm displaying it as in that account name, phone number, mobile number, fax, all those rating, all those information I'm displaying as a table here. I'm displaying as a table. Now here, what I can do is, now I can use the standard controller in the visual force page, which is a standard controller equal to account, and I can implement it, right? Visual force page can be implemented by using the standard controller. Now, whenever the standard controller is, we are using it. Whenever we are using the standard controller. Now that means which mode the visual force gets executed here. Whenever the visual force is executed, what is the mode that visual force executed? System mode or a user mode?
System mode.
System mode.
System mode.
I
So
think
whenever the visual
standard
force
control-
executed, it will execute in the system mode. And the standard controller default, we are taking it as an account. Not only the visual force, we have a automation rules, right? Workflows, process builder, lightning flows, like assignment rules. All these are runs into the system mode. Like for example, in the workflow, based on the certain field update, I wanted to send an email. Based on certain field update, as soon as the record is created, I wanted to send an email. Now, how this workflow is getting executed? The workflow is getting executed as a system mode because workflow does not look at who is the person created the record, whether this person is created, is this person has the access or not, whether the other person is created, whether the other person has the access to this or not. It is not going to verify any permission set. So by default, all the automation rules gets executed in the system mode. Everything gets executed in the system mode. Now here also in the visual force page, if I take a standard controller equal to account, if I try to execute the logic, what will happen? It will execute in the system mode. It will execute in the system mode. Now let's assume that instead of a standard controller, I am implementing a Apex class. I'm implementing a Apex class. Now that means on the account object level, this Apex class is which has a public class account helper. I'm not writing with sharing or without sharing. If I do not specify with sharing or without sharing, by default, what is the account sharing here?
Without sharing.
Without sharing.
Without sharing. Now I'm implementing some logic here in the Apex class, and that logic, what I'm doing here is I'm getting the data from account in the Apex class. And finally, I'll query the data and I'll return the data to the Visual Force. I'll return the data to the Visual Force. Now, this Visual Force, what are this Visual Force is there? It will basically in the Apex class, I'm doing the SOQL query. I'm doing the SOQL query. What is the SOQL query? Whatever the account records I have it, query all the account records. Query all the account records. So I'm going to query all the records, pass it to the Visual Force page. Now let's assume that these two users also has the access to the Visual Force. These two users has the access to the Visual Force. When these two users has the access to the Visual Force, if user one open the Visual Force, now what is what is the count of record that this person is able to view?
20.
Why 20? The Apex class here, we are writing which sharing we are implementing here.
Without sharing.
Without sharing. When it is a without sharing, what is the mode that get executed?
System mode.
System mode, right? So whenever we have a without sharing, it is system mode. Now, when the user one open this Visual Force page, how many records that this person can see?
27.
20? Because it doesn't care. Whoever the records are created, it doesn't care. Whenever we have a access, without sharing, this without sharing is implemented. Whenever this Visual Force is running in the system mode, it doesn't care who is the users are created. By default, it is going to display all the records. If the user one opens, it is going to display the 27 records. When the user two opens, it is going to display the 27 records. Because without sharing does not care who is the person has created, everything it is going to show you. Now, in case if I want to restrict here, whenever the user one open the Visual Force page, this person should only see the records that he has created. He should not see the records the other user has created. What should we need to do? If I want user one should be able to see the records in the Visual Force only related to the records, the 20 records, what are the records that he has created? Only those records. Sorry?
With sharing user mode.
We need to specify with sharing. Public with sharing class account helper. Class name, right? We need to use this sharing. Now what I'll do is in the real time where we use this with sharing without sharing is, now we have a community users, we have a Visual Force, certain access will be there, right? So this level of access, like whenever we are sharing, whenever we have a private access on the account level, but I need to implement some Apex class in that Apex class. That means on the lightning aura, the user is clicking on some button. Whenever the user clicking on some button, it should execute in with sharing or a without sharing mode based on that the batch class or backend, what are the lightning aura or a Visual Force or a community backend, what are the Apex class it is calling it should check that sharing level and then display the data. check that sharing level and display the data. This is usually in the real time we use it. Now what I'll do is same scenario, I'm going to implement it. I'm going to implement the visual force and then I'm going to call the Apex class from the visual force. I'm going to call the Apex class from the visual force. Now in this Apex class, I'll just need to query the data. I just need to query the data. Now let's go ahead and implement. Now developer console. In the developer console, I'm going to post. Let's implement the visual force. So the visual force which I'm implementing here, show all account. Show all account is my visual force page. Now, in the visual force pages, what I'll do is we have a certain attributes are there. Now we have a, let's say, we have a sidebar equal to false. And then we have a, what else we have? Show header is a false. Now let's say there is a, I wanted to have a tab style. So for the tab style, I'll just mention the tab style, which is similar to the position object. When I'm running this preview button, whenever I click on a preview button, the tab style should be the position. The tab style should be the position. Now this is the Apex page, and within this, I'm going to say here, section header. We have something called Apex section header. And within this, I'll say title equal to account. And then I'm going to display the subtitle. Subtitle equal to all accounts. All accounts. And then we are going to implement the Apex form. Apex colon form. Now within the form, we have a page block. Apex colon page block. Page block. Now let's say here title equal to all accounts. Now here what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the Apex class here. How can I call the Apex class? Now in order to call the Apex class, we have a controller. One option is available here, controller. We have controller. We have a controller here, controller equal to, let's say my Apex class name is show all account records. This is my Apex class. Now it will give an error because right now we do not have that class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to implement this class. Let's take this file, new Apex class. This is my Apex class. Now I'll save the visual force page. Okay, what it says, invalid tab style position underscore C. It's a 2 underscore. Let's save this. Now I have a visual force page is ready. Let's click on a preview. It is not displaying anything. Okay, I need to log out. Let's log out as Radha Shri was here. Now let me switch to the classic. Now in the classic, I'll click on a preview. Now here it says section is account, all accounts, right? So I don't have any icon. So it is displaying the icon details here. Now let's say all accounts. Now in the Apex class, I do not need any logic. Simply whenever the Apex class is called, I wanted to query the data that is there in the account. That means I need to implement a constructor here. I need to have a default constructor. I need to implement default constructor. Default constructor. Now this default constructor is public. We have already discussed. Constructor name should be same as a Apex. Constructor name should be same as Apex. Now here I'm going to query the data. So select ID, comma, name, comma, right, rating, comma, industry, comma, annual revenue, comma, phone, comma, fax, right, type, what else we have, active underscore C, from account. Now let's take it as a order by name. Order by name. Now this is the query that I needed. This is the query that I needed. Now this query, I need to store it in some place. This query, I need to store it in some place. That means I need to have some list where whenever we are calling the Apex class from the Visualforce page, it should have a getter and setter. It should have a getter and setter. That means I need to have here public list of account. I'll say ACC list. This ACC list should have a get and set. That means I need to pass the data. This data has to be passed. Now here what I'll do is ACC list equal to, I'll initialize it, new list of account. New list of account. Now simply here ACC list equal to whatever the query is there, that is a query. And then that's it. What is missing here? 7th line. List of account. Type. Let's remove the type here. Fax, click on save. Spelling of active is incorrect. Let's say no. What I'm doing here, usually what we will do like this, we will do, I'll declare I'll initialize it here, and whatever we are initializing it, that object name equal to, we will pass the query. This is what we do it, right? So instead of initializing within the constructor, what I am doing is outside of the constructor, I am declaring it here a object, right? Now this object should be get and set, because I need to pass this data to the Visualforce and I need to bring the data from Visualforce page. So it has to be get set. So this we have discussed at the starting of the class. Now click on save. Now we are done with Apex class. I'm done with Apex class. I do not have anything to do here. I'm simply pulling the data. I'm not doing anything here. I'm simply pulling the data. Now, once the data is available, now what I can do is within the Apex page block. So here within the Apex page block table, instead of a page block, let's take it as a page block table, because I'm going to display directly a table here. So for this table, within this, let's write it separately. Apex colon, page block table. Page block table. And for this table, I'm going to pass a value equal to, in double quotes, curly braces, exclamation. What is the data that I'm getting it from here? The data I'm getting it ACC list, which is a get is already there. So ACC list. For this, I'm going to loop through this list. So that means I need to specify a variable to this. Variable is ACC list. Within the page block table, I'll say apex colon column value equal to curly braces exclamation ACC dot name. ACC dot name. What is missing, required, where it is already there. Okay. Now similar to this, I need to have a different columns here. Now name, and then we have a rating. And then we have industry. And then we have an annual revenue. And then we have a phone. And fax. Then type. After that, we have a active. After that, we have a active. Now that's all. Now let's click on it, refresh. Now it is displaying all the accounts list, it is displaying. All the account list, it is displaying. Now here, it is very difficult for me to identify count. It is very difficult for me to identify how many records it is displaying it here. Now let's say here for the all account, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this. Whatever the list that I'm getting it, I'm going to use that list. ACC list dot, I'll say size. ACC list dot size. Now let me put it into the bracket. Now ACC list dot size. Now it says 61 records. It says 61 records. So total, I'm printing the 61 records here. Now this is the Visualforce page that I have implemented right now. Now in the real time, as soon as we implement a Visualforce page, right now, this is the Visualforce page, right? Apex/show account, apex/show all account is the Visualforce page. I'm copying that. Now what I'll do is I'll log in as another user. So let's log in as this person, Radha. Now, whenever I log in as that person, what I'll do is I'll say here, no, simply I'll copy this. Now I'll try to open this link. Now, what it is saying that insufficient privileges, they do not have access to the Visualforce. The other users does not have access to the Visualforce. Whether it is showing the data or not, that is the second part of it. The first part is whether the user is able to view the Visualforce or not. They are not able to view the Visualforce. The reason is whenever we create a Visualforce, we should give access to the other users. How can I give the access to the other users? Let's open this user. Right, this user has a profile which is called as a standard platform user. Now here you will see one option is called enable Visualforce pages. Visual Force pages. Click on this and click on edit. Now you have to give that access to this user. Click on a save. Now we have given a access to this profile. Now whenever this user login right now, whenever this user login, now let me give the same thing. Now this time this user is able to view the Visual Force page. He is able to view the Visual Force page and the data it is displaying the 61. Observe here, the data it is displaying the 61. Account data it is displaying the 61. But actually when this person log into the account, when this person open up the account and view all records, it says only 6 records he can see. Only 6 records he can see. But actually, when you go to the Visual Force page, what is happening? It is showing you all the 61 records. That means our Apex class, currently our Apex class is running in which mode? Our Apex class is running in which mode?
System mode.
System mode. That means without user, without sharing is. It is running in the system mode. So that's the reason whenever the other user is logged in, he can see everybody's data. He can see everybody's data. Now simply, if I say here with sharing, if I say here with sharing, as soon as I say here with sharing, that means whenever the backend logic is executed, whenever the backend logic is executed, it will look for what kind of a permission does this user has. What kind of a permission does this user has? If the user has a permission, only those records I am going to display. Now same Visual Force page I am opening as another user. Right now I can see 6 accounts. Because those are the owner, whatever he has created it or what are the records that's shared. That means whether he has a read access or edit access or created by him, whatever the data, whatever the sharing is available. Basically, this user can see only 6 records. So with sharing is works based on the sharing rule, based on the sharing. What is the actual record that this person is able to see? Without sharing is whatever the access you have, it doesn't care without sharing. I'll run it as a system mode. I'll run it as a system mode. So that's the difference in the Apex with sharing and without sharing. Any questions?
Swapna?
Yeah.
Yeah, the standard controller, I think it's the only exception, right? It runs in the user mode, correct?
Standard controller.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you try that standard controller?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It runs in the user mode only.
Yes. Right. So far the conclusion is we have seen the sharing record using the Apex sharing. And also in the account share, we have seen the with sharing and without sharing. And we have seen the one of the use case. Right. And we have seen the Apex class with sharing and without sharing. These are the one. Any questions?
Yeah, Swapna, now suppose in the trigger, there is a trigger handler, okay? And the trigger handler is suppose it is with sharing, okay? So then what is it? Which rows will be affected? Only the ones which user has access to?
Yes.
Okay. And I think there is one more type of sharing as well, right? Inherited.
Inherited is completely combination of with sharing and without sharing. It's a plus with sharing and without sharing. So usually we do not use in the real time.
Okay.
We only go for it with sharing without sharing in the real time. Inherited is nothing but it is a with sharing plus without sharing. So I'm pinging you the trial head link for the sharing.